Welcome, fellow travelers through time, to Alternatify. Here we delve into the tantalizing realm of alternative histories, where a single twist of fate can reshape the world we know. Today we confront a monumental question, one that has haunted historians and dreamers alike. What if the Mongol Empire, at the zenith of its power, had not turned back from Europe? What if the Golden Horde had swept across the continent, planting its banners from the Atlantic to the Urals? Imagine for a moment Mongol cavalry thundering through the streets of Paris, London, or Rome. Picture the iconic skylines of Europe, not with Gothic cathedrals and Renaissance domes, but with structures reflecting a different Eastern aesthetic. This is the world we are about to explore. We will journey through the potential consequences, the profound ripple effects, and the very fabric of the world we might have lost. Prepare to have your perceptions challenged and your imagination ignited. Our journey begins in the year 1241, a pivotal moment in history. The Mongol Empire, under the successors of the legendary Genghis Khan, stood as the largest contiguous land empire the world had ever seen. Its reach stretched from East Asia deep into Eastern Europe. The Mongol military was an unstoppable force, a testament to superior horsemanship, iron discipline, and an almost terrifying ruthlessness. They were masters of logistics, able to sustain vast armies across immense distances. Their communication networks were unparalleled, and their psychological warfare tactics were devastatingly effective. Europe, fragmented and largely unaware of the true scale of the threat, was ill-prepared. The Mongols delivered shocking victories at Legnica, crushing a combined Polish and German force, and Mohi, where the Hungarian army was utterly annihilated. Panic spread like wildfire through European courts, reaching the Pope, kings and dukes alike. Then a sudden unexpected event altered the course of history. In December 1241, Great Khan Ögedei died in Mongolia. This single death triggered a mandatory withdrawal of all Mongol commanders and their armies for the Kurultai. The Grand Council convened to elect a new Great Khan. This was the what-if catalyst. What if Ögedei had lived longer? What if the Mongol commanders, driven by an unyielding ambition, had prioritized conquest over succession? Let us imagine that fateful decision. The Mongols choose to remain and conquer Europe. This would not be a simple task, despite their military might. Europe was a patchwork of kingdoms, duchies, and independent city-states, each with its own defenses and allegiances. The Mongol strategy would likely involve a multi-pronged approach, targeting key strategic locations. Major cities, vital trade routes, and centers of political power would fall under their relentless assault. They would employ their perfected siege warfare, a terrifying combination of engineering prowess and sheer manpower against Europe's formidable fortifications. Their superior cavalry would outmaneuver and overwhelm any organized resistance. Crucially, the Mongols were masters at exploiting internal divisions, turning one European faction against another to weaken the whole. Psychological warfare would be a primary weapon. Terror would be spread deliberately, demoralizing populations and breaking the will to resist. The choice would be stark: clemency for submission, utter destruction for defiance. Maintaining such a vast army in foreign lands would be a monumental logistical challenge. They would need to sustain their forces with food, water, and ammunition. This would involve requisitioning local resources and establishing protected supply lines, a system they had perfected across Asia. The conquest of Europe would be a brutal reality, a period of unimaginable suffering. Cities would be razed, populations decimated, and the very landscape scarred by war. The scale of destruction would dwarf anything Europe had experienced before. Consider the potential impact on the Black Death. The Mongol Empire's vast trade networks, the very arteries of their dominion, were instrumental in facilitating the plague's spread from Asia to Europe. A Mongol-controlled Europe, fully integrated into this network, might have seen the plague arrive earlier, spread faster, and with even more devastating consequences. The destruction of European heritage would be immense. The fall of major cities like Paris, London, and Rome would mean the loss of countless architectural marvels. Cathedrals, libraries, and universities, repositories of centuries of knowledge and art, could be reduced to rubble. The cultural and intellectual landscape would be irrevocably altered. The Renaissance, that glorious rebirth of art, science, and philosophy might have been prevented entirely or delayed for centuries. The seeds of European modernity could have been crushed before they had a chance to sprout. Following the initial devastation, the Mongols would impose their governance model. They would appoint governors, establish systems of tax collection, and enforce order through a combination of force and intimidation. While often brutal, Mongol rule also demonstrated a pragmatic tolerance of local customs and religions, provided they did not threaten their authority. After the initial suffering and upheaval, a new Mongol Europe would begin to emerge from the ashes. The political transformation of Europe would be absolute. Existing kingdoms, duchies, and city-states would be swept away, replaced by Mongol-controlled provinces or vassal states. The power of the papacy, once supreme, would be severely curtailed, perhaps even dissolved. The Holy Roman Empire, already a shadow of its former self, would almost certainly cease to exist. Economically, Europe would be integrated into the vast Eurasian trade network, the Mongol Silk Road. This could lead to increased trade and a certain degree of prosperity, but it would come at a heavy price. This prosperity would be entirely reliant on Mongol control and subject to their heavy taxation. The flow of goods and ideas would be dictated by the Great Khan. Culturally, a fascinating, if forced, fusion would occur. Eastern and Western styles would blend in language, art, and architecture. Mongol culture, with its nomadic traditions and imperial grandeur, would become dominant, forcing European adaptation. The very identity of Europe would be reshaped. The religious landscape would also shift dramatically. Christianity would likely be tolerated, as was the Mongol custom, but it would be subject to Mongol control and taxation. However, given the Mongol Empire's general religious openness, there's a distinct possibility that Islam, already present in parts of Europe, could see a significant rise in influence, perhaps even becoming a dominant faith in certain regions. The long-term impacts of a Mongol Europe would reverberate through centuries, creating a world profoundly different from our own. The Renaissance and the scientific revolution, cornerstones of Western progress, would be delayed or fundamentally altered. Without the specific intellectual and political environment of post-medieval Europe, the trajectory of scientific discovery could be entirely different. The invention of the printing press, a revolutionary technology, might occur much later or in a different form, perhaps even originating in the East. The spread of knowledge would be controlled, and its impact on society would be reshaped. The age of exploration, which saw European powers venture across the oceans, would be profoundly affected. With Mongol control over the land routes to the east, the impetus for finding sea routes might be diminished or delayed. The discovery of the Americas and the subsequent global impact could have happened much later, or by different hands entirely. The rise of nation-states, a defining feature of modern Europe, would develop differently. Instead of fragmented kingdoms coalescing into distinct nations, we might see a more centralized, less diverse Europe, unified under an imperial model. This would be a Europe shaped by the Mongol emphasis on vast centralized rule. The very fabric of our modern world, its global balance of power, the development of democracy, the evolution of capitalism, would all be shaped in ways we can only speculate upon. The world we inhabit today would be unrecognizable. It is tempting to view such a scenario as purely catastrophic, but a balanced perspective reveals a complex tapestry of potential outcomes. There could have been certain advantages. The Mongols were efficient administrators. Their vast empire facilitated increased economic activity and improved infrastructure, connecting distant lands. A Mongol Europe might have seen better roads, more secure trade routes, and a more unified economic system. Their religious tolerance, while pragmatic, could have fostered greater cultural exchange than the often sectarian conflicts of medieval Europe. However, the cons are undeniably significant. The initial conquest would be marked by brutal violence, widespread death, and immense destruction. The imposition of heavy taxation and autocratic rule would stifle innovation and political freedom. The devastating loss of European cultural identity, the suppression of local traditions, and the potential destruction of priceless heritage would be an incalculable cost. Ultimately, a Mongol Europe would be a mixed bag, a world of potential prosperity and progress, but also one defined by oppression, suffering, and the profound loss of what might have been. Even without conquering all of Europe, the Mongols left an indelible mark on history. Their unsuccessful conquest forced European military adaptation, leading to new tactics and stronger fortifications. The fear they instilled shaped European history, driving innovation and a sense of shared vulnerability. More broadly, the Mongol Empire facilitated an unprecedented era of trade and cultural exchange. The flourishing Silk Road under Mongol rule connected East and West, allowing for the spread of ideas, technologies, and goods across Eurasia. This indirectly connected Europe to a wider world, even if they were not directly under Mongol dominion. The Mongol influence on governance also had subtle echoes. Their centralized bureaucratic systems and sophisticated diplomatic practices provided models that European states would later adapt. The very concept of a vast unified empire, though feared, also offered a template for future imperial ambitions. Contemplating this alternative history evokes a profound sense of loss. Imagine a world without the art of the Renaissance, the philosophical breakthroughs of the Enlightenment, or the scientific advancements that sprang from European intellectual traditions. Consider the loss of individual freedoms, the suppression of diverse cultural identities, and the unwritten chapters of human creativity. It is a sobering thought, a stark reminder of the fragility of history. Our present world is not inevitable. It is the product of countless choices, chance encounters, and pivotal moments. The unpredictable nature of events can steer humanity down entirely different paths. This exercise in alternative history serves as a powerful call to appreciation. It reminds us to cherish the world we have, the freedoms we enjoy, and the rich, complex history that has shaped us. We have journeyed through a world that almost was, a Europe reshaped by brutal conquest, cultural fusion, and profound, irreversible change. We have glimpsed a future where the familiar landmarks of our history might never have existed. Now we turn to you. Would a Mongol Europe have been better or worse? What do you believe would be the most surprising or devastating consequences of such a conquest? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. If you found this exploration intriguing, please like this video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to Alternatify for more journeys into the what if. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our next adventure. What other historical what-ifs would you like us to explore? Let us know. Until next time, keep questioning, keep imagining, and keep exploring the endless possibilities of history.